So I'm going to be going off. It's been about 5 years. Congratulations, you're the first in 5 years of actual coaching. I'm just going to pick up where I left off uh, in the style of it, with maybe a few improvements. But, so I know I already told you, but generally what we're going to do is first we're going to talk about what your usual game plan is and all that, because it's an hour. So we can go over a lot of stuff, but it's better to just focus on a couple things to work on, and then maybe next month we work on some other things. But usually, like you can't fix everything in an hour, but I think you understand that. So
Yeah.
So what would you say your worst matchup is right now?
They're all bad.
They're all bad. No. Okay, first in StarCraft you need to pick something. You need to figure out what the problem is, so that way you can fix it. You can't just say the whole
Okay.
problem.
I guess against Terrans with tanks.
With tanks. All right, there we go. Good start. And mines. Also mines. Are you in the WinterStarcraft group chat on NA?
Nope.
If you could do that. Are you on NA?
Yeah.
Okay. Join the.
How do I do that?
All right. So there's a button called groups. It's in between. It's the middle button on the bottom right.
Oh.
And then search winter, and then look for the one with my face, or just winter space SC2.
Okay. I joined, I think.
You're nearly our 10,000th member. Congratulations. There you go. So now I need to be able to invite you to a party, so we can do. Which one do you want to go over first? The Terran versus Protoss, or Terran versus... Oh, not Terran versus Zerg. Protoss versus Zerg, or Protoss versus Terran?
Versus Zerg first, probably.
Alright, sounds good. We're just gonna... So what I'm gonna be able to do is take command is to say... Alright, let me change. Do you have your observer interface as a default?
Oh, I haven't said. I'm on the fancy one.
Just switch it to default, so it's like you're in game.
Okay. I'm on default.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna look through, and you're gonna point out your mistakes, and if you miss anything or miss significant things, I'll point them out for you. Because it will just like a directed criticism. It's like driving a car, where you can drive the car, but I'm here to make sure you don't crash it.
Oh wait, my observer interface is still on the fancy one. Okay.
You probably did the not observer, but replay interface needs to be it.
Yeah, I did an observer one, not the replay one. Okay. Is that?
It should give me an indicator. I get into the... Yeah, should be good. So, how long have you been playing?
A year, I think.
And pretty consistently, like...
Or I missed like 1 month or something.
But, so how much do you usually play, like on average? Like, let's take an average month.
Two a day.
2 games a day? Alright, do you play like 10 games one day and then you have a week
No,
and then...
it's kind of consistent. So like
Okay,
2 games a
it's
day,
better to
and
play 2 games a day than 15 games on one day, I would say. Maybe, like, no, I mean like it's better to just consistently learn.
New subscriber detected.
Okay, so I'm
Hey, guys.
doing a 13 pylon because I want to do a depth build. And when I get to the other side, there's kind of a hatch.
So, a 13 pylon doesn't help if you don't get your gateway on time. It doesn't speed up your gateway at all if you don't actually just build it.
I'm trying to block the hatchery, so if I have a depth, I can, like, I won't be
Okay.
surrounded by roaches or something.
That's fair. I'll actually give you that. But it's not so much about like the pylon timing. It's about you had the minerals and you didn't go down. Usually, to build a gate, you just rally your next probe down. Like you build the pylon, whichever one goes down, and then your next probe goes down to build the gate.
Wait,
So,
is this a game I forgot the chrono boost? Maybe.
wow, so much already learned.
Yeah, maybe I
But-
forgot the chrono boost this game.
But still, it is consistent no matter how much chrono boost you're throwing in anywhere. Whatever your next probe is just gets rallied down. Because by the time the pylon finishes, you should have the minerals. Even if you build it on 13 or 14, though. 14's probably better. I wouldn't worry too much. Like, that way, if you're consistently rallying it down, I know it's a little thing, but that way you don't end up in this scenario. Where now the pylon's done, and doesn't matter when you chrono, because I guess the chrono would be for that one, but
Yeah,
it's part of it.
Forgot.
The probe still wouldn't have caught in time. Just I would rally the next probe,
Okay.
and then you don't end up with this tripping over yourself situation. You can already see this is. I'm not a huge fan of the trying to control the Zerg one. What an announcer.
It's a disaster.
And also that you're not going to be able to block the base if you don't actually keep the probe on it. Are you intending to block the base of the pylon, or are you just trying to see if he has a hatch going down?
Well, I haven't thought of the pylons. I met a few Zergs, they just goes directly to the Zerg.
That's actually super standard. You know what my recommendation is? Stop trying to block the hatch. Like, I mean, you can send the probe out, but it's better to just get a solid build where you don't screw yourself over in the first 2 minutes. Because there's a couple options for competent, like, you're looking to face more competent Zergs, right? That's the point. Zergs, there was actually a meme posted, and everyone knows me, that was retweeted by Cyril. So you know it's true. But, like, it was like PvZ ladder nowadays, and it just had, like, 17 pictures of Zergs taking the third base against Protoss. Like, the mini-map having a hatch at the third and nothing at the natural. Because everybody sends a probe out, so some Zergs will actually just rally their drones to the net. So I just do 14 pylon, 16 gate, 17 assimilator.
I see
You can't
him
build cannons
coming
without-
for a proxy hatch, so I.
Hey, you don't know that's a proxy hatch.
But his rally point is onto the Nexus.
There's no.
And
It's not
super
necessarily a
early.
proxy hatch, but just bring another probe down. Like that.
Your probe.
You don't need 4 probes. What if it's not a proxy hatch? What if he just took the third?
I guess that's a point, but he doesn't have a natural.
What if he just took the third? You're assuming a lot here from him. He can't build a hatch if you have 2 probes in that location. Like, there's nothing there that requires 5 probes. You just need to, like, I think you're seeing now, like, you know, because you know he goes proxy hatch. You're telling me because the game already happened. But I'm telling you, there is no guarantee here at all that he's going for a proxy hatch. You've already got it in your head, it seems, that he's going for a proxy. So you need to remove that, and when you see it, maybe pull the probes. But you do not need 5 probes against someone who has 1 drone.
Defend that.
It's not that other meme that is inappropriate for Twitch. Yeah. So what's happening here? How does this look to you? Does this look like an efficient build order to you?
Nope.
So this is why, like, I think you need whatever you need to be able to get to 2 minutes without things like this happening. I'll spell out the exact build for you. I'm gonna write it down. I don't know if you saw, but I got Notepad up. I'll send you the files after, and by files I mean a tiny text file. But I'll write down the exact build, which is 13 Rally Nexus Probe to Nat, and then 14 Pylon and Scout. Rally Next Probe to Nat. Pylon Finish. And Chrono Probes. 16 gate, because you make a probe before the next gate.
Yeah.
16 gate. Shift Q. Gateway probe. I like to hotkey the gateway probe on Q. On not on Q, on 2. But it looks like you're using 2 for your scouting probe, is that right?
Yeah.
So I'd just say 3. Just pick, or 4. 5 is also a number. Like, but I like to have a builder probe, because the builder, like, the probe does all the heavy lifting, right?
Okay.
Shift Q it to the assimilator, or you can rally to the assimilator. Like, this is how the pros get all these tight build orders. They have, like, all this mapped out. That way you don't have a bunch of probes tripping over each other to get things done.
Okay.
You can maybe chrono the probes after that, like 18 and 19, but usually players won't. I wouldn't worry about it. And then
a follower. Is that all?
How do probes trip without feet, Kappa?
how do probes trip without feet? I thought I muted that, but shut up. And then 20 Nexus. I would recommend just using the probe, getting in the habit of using the probe you hotkeyed. Or rehotkey builder. So that probe, like when you rally the probe down, the one you're going to make your Nexus with, I'd rehotkey that, and that becomes now your permanent builder probe. The first probe goes back in mines, but then you have a builder probe after that.
Okay. Oh, this does happen a lot in other games when I try to build something like select 2 probes or select no probes or something.
So wouldn't it be nice if you just had something already there? Like, it took me a while. I actually only added that in the last few years, which sounds like a long time until it's like it's been 10 years. So, but I started really adding it in. I've seen some pro players use it, and every time I see a pro select 3 probes to build a pylon, I'm like, aha! You're a noob. I don't know. What build do you like to go for? Do you like, I mean, like,
Against,
what tech, rather?
against Zerg?
Yeah.
Adepts and then Colossus.
Okay.
I mean, Adepts then DT, and if it doesn't work,
Disgusting, but
then go
okay.
to Colossus.
So then I'd recommend getting your pylon before the second assimilator, just to make sure you don't forget it. If you're going Stargate, I would say get your assimilator first, because you need the gas, and you should be more careful where you put your pylon, but you just need to make sure you don't get supply blocked with the depths.
Okay.
Okay, so here I'm just gonna read you. I'm adding a few notes. I'll read you what I got so far, but so on general notes, I have don't panic generally, and then don't panic about drone. 1 extra probe only. That's a specific don't panic. And then the build is at 13, you rally your Nexus to the natural, and that will build a pylon. And then you can just shift Q. You can build the pylon and shift Q it to the other side. All just in one motion. And then after that, your next probe after that also rallies down, so you don't need to even reset your rally point. And that makes a gateway on 16. But in between that probe finishing, well, in between the pylon and the gate, I mean, this is all written down. It's going to be a lot easier to look at like that. But you're going to chrono your probes as the pylon finishes. And then the gate is on 16 because you're building another probe. And then you shift Q your gateway probe to your assimilator in the main, so that'll be on 17. Because you're still building probes, this is implied. And then you got 2 more probes, and then on 19 you rally your probe, because usually at this point you're microing on the other side. Your probe got there, you saw, is he going for a hatch? You know what, let's add scout things. I'm adding scout things. What do you think a normal hatch timing is? Like, what is a, this isn't suspicious, this is a normal hatch timing.
56 seconds, a minute.
That's actually almost perfect. You're right.
Because for a certain pylon, my probe arrives at 56. a lot
Yeah.
of time. 55, something like that.
I wouldn't worry too much about blocking the hatch, to be honest. I know it can screw it up, but you're gonna get... That's based on what I've seen so far, and I think if you're being honest with yourself, you're just as likely to screw up your build as you are his. So, I think we're gonna focus on actually locking down a build. So, if it goes past 110, and there's no hatch or no attempt at a hatch, that's suspicious. At that point, you check in the main for a spawning pool, and more importantly than just the pool, if there's a pool, of course, but check the gas. Because the gas determines whether or not it's just maybe Zerglings, or if he potentially has a third or a proxy hatch. So, at 110, if he doesn't attempt a hatch, I'd say if he does try it at 110, and your probe is there, or build a pylon and scout, and if he doesn't attempt a hatch, that's really suspicious. What is he doing? But if he does attempt a hatch, I'd build a pylon. You should have the minerals, and then you scout the main. By the time you come back down, as long as you do a pretty decent scouting path, your pylon shouldn't be done. You've seen this before. And then you can just cancel it and rebuild it. Or you've scouted something, you should cancel it and get the minerals. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So, you're now, like, what I think you're trying to do is kind of interrupt him. But instead, we're just going to learn how to beat whatever he's doing. So that is the basic scouting. And here you're going to come in and see a spawning pool. But that's mostly because you're fucking up his day right now. Like, you're ruining his day. I think he actually did want to go hatch first. And he was just drone scouting. But, you came in with the early probe and screwed him up. But you have a lot of probes now mining right now. So.
Yeah.
Your probes are under attack.
Yeah, like, even in this scenario, even if he goes, like, that pool is not that early. And if you look in the main, like you're about to see, I'm on your vision, but not on your camera. He doesn't have any gas. When he doesn't have gas, no gas equal no need for quick wall. Essentially what that means is you can take a Nexus. Like, what you're probably going to want to do is cut probes, but get Nexus. Gas equal danger time.
Okay.
So, like, if he already had gas done, he could have Zergling speed on the way. You can see it. You know how to see Zergling speed researching, right?
Yeah.
So, or you can click on the gas. You see the gas starts at 2250. If you click on the gas and it says 2214, he can't be getting Zergling speed for a while. He's only mined like 35 gas. So, you can kind of get a gauge on that. And of course, if you see a building, I mean, he can't have been mining gas for long. We're a minute and 20 seconds in, right?
Yeah.
But here, is he doing? Wait. You said he did a proxy hatch.
No, he didn't he didn't.
He never tried.
I.
Let me tell you this right now. So, wow. Okay. Now let me take off my angry coach hat and put on my angry coach jacket, which is more subtle. There was no proxy hatch at any point. All you did was screw up his day, so he kind of did weird things because you were already doing weird things. And you imposed on him the idea that he was doing a proxy hatch, but I don't think he had that intent.
Okay,
I think he was actually just drones. You
because,
shouldn't be
like,
scared of a
there's
proxy hatch.
There are a few proxy hatch, and I don't know how to deal with those.
So I'm actually going to include, I'm just going to put this at the end. Basic responses. Proxy hatch response. We're going to assume you scouted early. You're going to need a more dramatic response after that if you don't. So if in base, it's just probably Zerglings, right? Like, he's only going to build Zerglings in your base. So in order, you need 7 probes. 7 probes will kill it at 90%. Most pros, from my experience, agree that all you want to do is stop it from building, not just kill it right now, because then he'll just cancel and restart one. 7 probes is the number that will kill it when it's at about 90%. So he won't finish it, but it'll also keep building and tie him up with minimal mining time loss. And it sounds like a lot of time, but he just invested 300 minerals in a drone in your base. But if it's at your natural, you might want to pull 8 or 9 just to be able to get your nat. Or build a zealot early. But if it's out of base, like if it's at your 3rd or something, like you'll see like a Scarlet build. What you actually want to do, you can still expand, but robo plus batteries, not extra gates. Like 1 gate, and then you get to robo and batteries, because that's likely like a spine crawler or some sort of queen or roach push. So you need tech to deal with it. That's a later long-winded. But we know, 1, he's not proxy hatching at all in this game. You described it as an attempted proxy hatch, which means, to me, you just think every drone is an attempted proxy hatch, which is a little racist. But but there was no proxy hatch. You need to, what I think you need to do, well, it's good you came to me, okay? Because you, Zerg is, here's also, if you have the time, I'm just going to throw this in, you need to play a little Zerg. Like, I don't.
Oh, I do play random in 2v2s, but that's too
Do you proxy hatch people? No, I mean on 1v1. On 1v1. You need to play a little Zerg. And understand that a Zerg can't simultaneously have like a big all-in and also a better economy. Because if you don't play... Zerg is very different than even Protoss and Terran. So it can... And team games don't really get you the idea. I recommend, if possible, like, play placements. Placements for Zerg. You're probably going to lose all 5 because the placements will take your MMR. Or 5 more games,
1.
whatever. And what did you do in that game? Do you remember?
It's a
Did you
terror.
proxy hatch?
And I tried to go mute us, and doesn't work. And I'm dead.
Well, I recommend you play a little more Zerg. But we're a minute and 20 seconds in, and we're picking apart the reality you've created, but your reality is halluc. It wasn't a proxy. And you don't need 2 gates. And you don't need 3 probes down here. And you slaughtered his drone, which was very mean. So we're just gonna... I know I'm throwing a lot at you. The idea is I throw a lot at you, and you remember a little bit each time. And if you eventually remember most of it, it should be good. But we're just going to start from the beginning. I'm just going to let it play. If you could point out some of the parts that you're going to want to change. You understand what I mean? Like, for example, the first one would be rally on 13 or something.
Oh, here we go again.
Like, that would be...
Okay, so this is wrong. The next probe should go do this. And the next rally should be to the natural for the gate.
Yeah.
And then chrono boost after the pylon.
Yep.
Okay. So now
Yeah.
on
Enemies
the
attacking
other
the probes.
side,
How
and
could
I
you
should
let
look
this happen?
for something.
We'll let you vote. What are you looking for on the other side? Let's assume everything
hatch.
else was good. And then
If another hatch going to the main, look for
The
a
probes. Defend them.
spawning pool and the gas, whether he had mined or like build a gas or not.
and he doesn't have any gas. What then?
We'll
Save those probes. You can't build cannons without them.
go for a nexus, but cut
Probes
probes.
are under attack.
And I don't think we need to wall off early.
It's a disaster.
There you go. All right, you got it. He could, like, if there wasn't a pool, or the pool, like, if you go into the main and the pool's in the red or something, there might be a proxy, or he might have taken his third. But if there's no gas, there's no danger, unless there's a hatch in your base. Otherwise, it's just slow Zerlings. Which means you have time to get a a Nexus, then a Cybercore and another gate, and a Zealot in the wall. And then eventually an Adept behind it, and then he can't do anything, right? So,
Yeah.
does this all make sense?
Yeah.
All right, the rest of the game. Though honestly, if you could fix all that, I think the rest of the game's gonna feel a lot better. Like, instead of
I think the starting, like, I have like 2 less workers right now, something.
and 3 of them were slaughtering a defenseless drone that you just assumed. Like, not all drones are proxy hatches, okay? Like, just because it is a little weird. He may have been thinking about it, but even then, a proxy hatch isn't that big a deal. Especially if he doesn't have anything but Zerglings. Just know how to deal with it with how many probes?
7.
Or if it's a little later, maybe 8 or 9. But you see what I mean by that.
Your probes are under attack.
Also, that's not the correct wall. I think you know that.
Yeah, this is like a 1.5.
Here's your homework. There's a mod called. Do you know how to add extension mods to the game?
Yeah.
Just do instant build and train. Build and train mod for walls. And then just go to every map, or at least the maps you don't veto. Are you vetoing any maps right now?
I vetoed submarine and
That's fair.
some other maps. I forgot.
Well, whatever maps you have, go to instant build and train. And then, remember, you can do it on both sides of the map. But 3 building, wall, /2 on Death Aura. Which you can do, by the way. It's just a little finicky. So, that's your homework is to successfully wall off both sides of the map. You just send your probe out. Or restart the game and do it again. Because this is obviously wrong. There's a way to do it. I'm not going to explain it to you. It's pretty simple. You've seen it before. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But you should be able to consistently do it every time. And an important part is leave battery/pylon sized gap between pylon and gateway. So that's how you defend a Baneling bust or a Rochallin, is the ability to slap a battery. And you want to have that behind where you'd put your Adept in the wall. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So your pylon should not be right up against it because it's more vulnerable, and you struggle to wall in behind against all ends. So while we're practicing, you can also do that. But this game, as you can tell and look right now, is a disaster. Like, that is a mess. And I think right now you're thinking like, oh, I should probably get a Nexus now, right?
Yeah.
And then you look at your minerals and you say, oh, it might be a bit. This, like, you can see yourself scrambling. It's a little funny, I will say. Like, but now we know what to do instead. What we're trying to do is remove... I'm sorry, I'm pausing all the time, but that's why we're here, right? We're removing the ability for you to fuck yourself over. Because your greatest enemy still, and mine, even like at near GM is myself. Because if I have to think about exactly where and when to place my buildings every game, I'm gonna screw it up. And I do screw it up sometimes. But like, you want to get to a point where you don't have to think about the first 2 minutes, so that way you can worry about the rest.
Okay.
You got what I mean there?
Yep.
So what's your homework?
Go to every map and use the instant build mod and try to wall off both sides with 3 buildings.
And tell me if you find a
gap
better one
for
than
a
just...
battery.
Oh, yeah. And also tell me if you find a mod that's better than the generic instant build and train, by the way. There's one that's like very popular, but if you find a better one, tell me. There's like 100 of them. But yeah, you got it. The fact that the probe just went by the other probe, I think this is what convinced you in hindsight that it's a proxy hatch or something like that, is he sent... No. Remember, with all due respect, both you guys are shit. That drone just followed your probe across the map because he never paid attention to it. Like, you let it home! He's still trying to attack it. And then he's like, oh shit, I'm here. How's that wall? One, you know about Mineral Walk, right? Bob. Did we lose Bob?
Yeah.
We did?
I'm alive.
You know about Mineral Walk, right?
Yes.
So, best case scenario that he didn't here. But, like, this... Ooh. How close to a typical start for Protoss versus Zerg? Like, I know maybe it's not this bad, but how often do you find yourself kind of scrambling in the first few minutes?
Well, if there isn't a hatch, I will probably scramble.
There...
If it's a hatch first, I think it's fine in most games.
So you're saying your build is to deny his hatch, and then if you successfully do so, you're now scrambling.
Kind of like that.
All right. So you can see why that might be potentially a strategic issue. I'll take that as a yes.
My mic is doing something weird. I don't know why.
It's dramatically being silent when I ask very pointed questions I already know the answer to.
Well, like the answer should be a yes or something.
Yes or no? Yes, I left it a yes or no. The question was, do you see why your greatest enemy is yourself? Essentially.
Yeah.
You described to me, my greatest enemy is when he doesn't have a hatch, and then you came into this saying, I'm trying to block his hatch. So, I just want to keep pointing that out and reinforcing that I have now, I'll once again, I'll be linking you it, but I'm making you remember now to make it easier in the future. But
okay.
A build that doesn't rely on screwing yourself over. So why are you getting that gate now?
I thought. Oh, so not I thought. I thought I'm like kind of behind right now. So why not just go all in?
So we're 2 minutes and 45 seconds in. You've blocked his hatch, causing a panic in you. And then you wanted to expand, but we're so far, quote-unquote, behind, that you decided to just go all in. I'm going, like, past this point, I'm no longer going to point out how much you're screwing yourself over. I will compliment you, and you know when it's due. This was a good replay to choose. Though maybe not for the reasons you chose it. But this was a good one. This has really given us a lot of insight here.
The firstborn shall persevere.
Like, you can't both go all in. You know what you don't do when you're going all in? That's not a rhetorical question. What don't you do if you're going for an all-in?
The Nexus.
A Nexus. What are you going to build next?
Nexus, I think.
Okay, I'll stop after this, I swear. But you keep doing it. I don't... I thought, like, what are we going to do with only 2 replays? But we've made it 3 minutes into one. It's been almost half an hour. I'm not trying to drag it out either, but, like, there's a lot. And I think you see it now. How many drones do you think he has?
Right now or like in the game?
Without clicking or touching anything. Just ballpark his drones.
25, I guess.
22.
Hmm.
So, this is why, by the way, I recommended playing Zerg. Because, now that wasn't far off, but it was hard to be wrong when you can see a supply. Like, but a Zerg player without a hatchery, Zergs don't get drones nearly as fast as people think they do. Because you think of Zerg like, oh, it's going to be Scarlet with 100 drones at 4 minutes, right? It doesn't really work like that. With a normal Protoss build, you should have more probes from like 25 to 40, unless someone does something crazy early. So Protoss actually, like imagine a curve where the Protoss kind of peaks out production quicker because they have Chrono Boost and 2 Nexi. Whereas the Zerg has to use their larva on things like Overlords, they don't have injects, they don't power up as quick. It's only around like the 5-minute mark when the third base starts kicking in, assuming they got one. That's when the drone count gets out of control. So you don't really have to worry about being behind economically unless you literally just don't get a Nexus, which you kind of did, but since you're both terrible, no offense, neither player really has much of an economy. I think your focus should be, I'm gonna just put some baseline for your next 10 games. I'm gonna have, this will be at the end. I have just additional notes, which is like the proxy hatch. You'll find that in the additional notes will be just like random stuff, and then homework will be at the top. Next 10 Protoss games, 40 probes before any aggression. So, the next 10 games you play, I want you to get 40 probes before doing any attack besides 1 Adept or one Oracle to scout. You should pretty much always be building 1 Adept to scout if it doesn't end up in whatever this disaster now is.
Okay.
So, what was that? So, what did I just say? Next 10 games, what are you doing?
40 probes before aggression. And
Are you going to get
penalty.
40 probes before aggression in this game?
I don't think so.
You can see, okay. How many probes can you put on one base before it becomes better to long distance mine? Do you know the number?
24.
So, can you answer my next question?
Okay, I know the next question.
Honestly, what I'd recommend is if your Nexus is a little late. If your Nexus is on time, you don't have this problem. But, like 20, and then it gets a little out of hand. Or maybe just mine your gas. I don't.
Oh, yeah, right.
But it's better than long distance mine. No, like with an Adept build, technically, you're not nearly at the level you're calculating 2 out of 3 in gas. You should not be doing that. Should be like maybe 3 in one gas and 1 in the other, and then adding more in as you get probes. But now we're getting even more complicated. But just like up to 20, 22, something like that, and then start just rallying down. But if you're in a situation where you're like at 24 probes on one base with no other nexus, something has gone horribly wrong. I'm just adding this in additional notes. 20 to 24 probes before long distance, but shouldn't be an issue. And then I'm gonna put a text emoji that is like my face staring at you, because you know why. Like,
Okay, so at this point, I'm trying to find a third, and I didn't find one. So
which is weird. I will give you that. That's a good adept scout. Oh,
but the third is on the other side. I didn't go there, so like I thought he was on 2 base.
well, you got to scout both for one. And do you know what time? Now, this is just generally. This is not for this game at all. Do you know what time Zergling speed finishes with a normal hatch first and a normal gas?
I don't know. I guess. I don't know. 330, 350.
You're actually exactly right. You guessed exactly right. If they do a gas before pool, which is probably, but you can't rely, I would just assume 330 if they have a gas and you don't know exactly when.
Okay.
Zergling speed 330 to 4. The only time it's usually later is if they take a quick third. Like, you know, some players will take a third before getting gas. So, but I'd assume if they're going gas in a pool, which you should be able to scout with your first probe.
Yeah.
They get Zergling speed at what time?
330.
Yep. And that's like for any Terrans or other Zergs that may be watching this, it doesn't change much. The normal hatch first build order is the same. So when you play those Zerg games, that's a decent benchmark. Though I don't know if you should build Zerglings, but many people will.
Need more pylons? Your research is complete.
This isn't bad adept micro. There's one thing you're not doing though.
Yeah.
Well, there's multiple things. What's the biggest one you think?
Not building probes.
There you go. And also, one of the big mechanics of Protoss is warp-ins, right? So if you want to do an attack and you're not warping in, you don't get the cooldown. You can't charge up. You know that, but it's not co-op. So every second, like right now, you could have warped into adepts and started sending them across, or at the very least just warped them in and started building up those adepts. If you're going to do like an adept timing, you need to be, as your warp gate finishes, building the adepts, because you don't get those cooldowns back. If it feels like your attacks don't look as strong as like Neeb, that's because Neeb is building his units. And also many other reasons, but that's one of them. But the warping cooldowns, like, if you don't use it, you lose it. It's just how it is. That is also partially why Protoss get the select all warp gate hotkey, because they get punished the most for missing their production. Like, Terrans can queue up. It's not ideal, but it's okay. Zergs can bank larva, but Protoss cannot bank warp-ins. So they get a little... You know what the... Do you use the select warp gate hotkey?
Yeah.
Do you have
Not
rapid fire warp-ins, by the way? Just a side note.
Yeah.
For all your units, or just... That's
just
fine.
Zealots.
I'm just going to throw it on there. Maybe consider... This is way... Like, this is definitely an extra detail. But, I have, like, a 3-minute guide. Actually... I don't know who did. I think Jack Attack did a good one.
I know how to do it. I set it up for
No,
I
no.
forgot
Like, there's
Zerg.
actually you can have multiple hotkeys for other
Yeah,
units.
I know. I set it up for Zerg for building hatch and
For
Overlord.
building hatch and overlord. What?
I
Why?
mean, I also bound the select lava on V, so I can just press V twice.
Moving on. Moving on. I'm not. We're worried about Protoss right now. I'm not. I'm not getting paid enough for that. Why? Why do you need so many overlords?
Because when I play Zerg, I supply block like crazy.
But like, was the rate at which you're able to queue up the overlords anyways? Never... I don't...
Upgrades finished.
Glory to the Daemon.
Did you really need a chrono boost on that Twilight to finish up Glaives? Was Glaives finishing 10 seconds faster gonna be a game-defining moment?
No, because I just remember in this build I need to chrono boost it twice so that it came
Well,
out at the same time. Like
Whatever
that.
build you're trying to, I think. Did you get it from Hearthstone?
Yes.
You know how I know? Because I've seen Diamond players try to do Hearthstone's build before. And this is one of the worst iterations, I will be honest. You're not nearly where you need to be with the Nexus, so everything's thrown off by that, obviously. The Nexus is the Nexus timing is very important. It factors in the rest. So what I like to do is I like to tie things together. So that way, even if like something happens and your supply is not exactly the same, or if you lose some probes, or if your Nexus is a little late, you can still tie it together. So, Cybercore finishes, build Twilight. And then before Glaives, build Robo. I'm actually going to write this down.
Yeah, I think I did that.
Did you start the Robo before Glaives started?
Yeah, I think I did the robo and then 2 gates. Although the second gate is late.
I don't think Glaives should have been done quite as quickly if that's the case. But either way, the problem is it doesn't matter. Because your Warp Prism should be coming out a little after Warp Gate finishes, which obviously there's a bit of a disparity there. And that comes down to kind of outplaying yourself in the early game. I mean, I see where you're going with it, and I think you can play this build if you do the build. What you're doing right now is a very bad impression of it. I think you can agree at this point, but
Yeah.
I don't mind. Like, I'm not saying change the build. I'm saying do the build. That no matter how thick that zealot is, it's not. The Zerglings will go through on both sides. I like how optimistic he is, though.
Oh, this
So
is
what-
a mistake. This should be a adept.
Just say it was to kill the Overlord faster. Okay.
Glory to the Daemon.
Wait, I should be moving out.
Now I'm trying to, at this point we kind of got to split from reality even more because it's a build order and it's not in order. So that's the problem. When you don't have the probes in time, it all comes together. I was going to say tying things together. So like Cybercore, Twilight, Robo, Glaives. And then 4 gates, 2 pylons. So go to 4 gates, build 2 pylons. Because that's about the timing, right? You might need to build it a little before, but 2 gates, 2 more gates, 2 more pylons. Can you remember that?
Yeah.
Because that's why people get supply blocked at, especially 46. 46 is really bad. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
54 also bad because you just did your first warp and you're ready to go, and now you got supply blocked on your second one. You're building pylons, but it does kind of feel a little random, like, oh, I'm getting supply blocked. Because once again, from almost the start, you've been interrupting yourself.
I think we can go 2x after this because it's already
gets-
very bad.
No, I want to actually. We're gonna look at your adept micro. By the way,
Oh, it's
I don't
very
say it's
bad.
No, it's about the decision making more. Like, do you know about hold position on it? Okay, sir. This is a mineral line. This is not where your dark shrine goes. Please put the dark shrine outside. Don't bring that in here.
Okay.
That's an outside shrine.
I'm kind of surprised I'm seeing
Glory to the day.
like
So
this shouldn't be the time I'm seeing Hydras.
he did do a
So
quick
I'm
layer.
surprised.
I'm going to... Okay. So the Adept Scout should be mapped out. Once again, we're assuming you did a normal build. Adept Scout after Cyber. I'm going to map out all of your shades, by the way.
Okay. Oh,
Shade
also
1 across the map.
for other PVZs, I'm not sure when should I be looking for a layer because sometimes mutas show up and I'm dead.
Any layer before 5 minutes is... like, if the layer's done before 5 minutes, that's a little suspicious. Though, if you're doing a Glaive to Depth builds, mutas shouldn't be a threat unless you didn't scout for 3 bases or if he's on 2 base. Like, if he has mutas before your Adept all in, something has gone horribly wrong.
I mean after the adept all-in.
Actually, it's not unlikely he'll go mute. You gotta... Pretty much, how does he defend the Adept all in? Does he have a bunch of roaches?
Roaches.
If he has a bunch... Like... If he has roaches with speed, you should be able to see if it's upgrading. You know, the same way you see Zergling speed upgrading. Either you see roach speed is done, or if he's upgrading speed, or if he has just a dozen roaches, the Adept All-In should do enough damage that, or at least it should see enough to have some suspicions. Because either 1, you scout the Spire, 2, you do damage because he didn't build enough roaches, or 3, it was so slow he still had enough economy and enough roaches. So either way, there's a problem. But I'm just giving you the basic scout. So the Adept Scout after the Cyber is the Shade 1 crosses the map. And then check for thirds. You should be like 2/3 of the way across the map. Shade 2. Drone count at nat. Right? Well, it really depends. Either drones at nat or scout main. Shade 3 scouts main / So pretty much it's an opportunity, depending on the map and how far you get across. You might be able to send the second shade into the main to just, you know, you've seen this before in pro games, like the circle around the main. Pros are looking for the gases, whether a layer's building, and how many drones there are. You can kind of just get the gist. You know what it looks like when there's 5 drones compared to 15. So that's especially important at the natural. Like, if earlier on your Adept had come in and just did that around the natural. And this is like very simple. These are the only times you're looking at the Adept. If he has no drones at the nat, or he has something weird, or 2 gases in the main, well then, that's sus. And then the 4th shade, sometimes you have to get out after 3. You might have made 6 Zerglings or something, but the shade 4, maybe 3, go home. You go home. So that way, if he is doing it all in or something, you've probably already scouted it, or at least you're safer against it, because that first Adept is super important. Once again, I'll link you all this after.
Okay.
That one's a little more complicated, but I'd recommend... I mean, there are plenty of pro or higher level replays. If you're actually looking for what the Adept Shades do, this is also true in Protoss versus Terran, by the way. And Protoss, well, not really Protoss versus Protoss. You don't really do scouting Adepts. It's a very different flavor of Adepts. But against Terran, the first shade goes across the map. After dealing with the Reaper and all that, maybe. But second shade goes up to the wall, maybe looks around. Third shade scouts again to see, like, are they going for a reactor or something? Are they building a factory? Like, how much? Are they building a bunker? You recognize all the things I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then the fourth shade is usually the amount of time they have either enough units or things like Hellions or a Cyclone, and it's time to get out of there. So you can use the same thing for against Terran. Once again, we're not even going to touch PvP. I don't know if I could if I wanted to, and I probably shouldn't, but you know how it is. At some point, maybe look at an actual PvP build, but if you got Terrans and Zergs, you got most of it, right? So.
Yeah, there's a lot of Terrans.
There are a lot of Terrans indeed. Have I talked to you? Have you heard of our Lord and Savior, Psystorm? Not to do damage, just mental damage. And if we're lucky, we'll get to the Terran game, but this has given us a lot. So what we learn here is you got to scout for both thirds on most maps. I'm trying to think if there's even a single map that doesn't have like the alternative thirds. The only map is maybe Romanticide, but not really, because it's just kind of a more awkward, but they can still take both. So just get in the habit of scouting both. So, why a second Robo here?
I thought I can maybe have time to go for a Robo Bay before he hits me with these Hydras.
Okay, so the answer to the Hydras actually is Colossi, but one, we're assuming a close to ideal circumstance where you don't psych yourself out early. You'll have scouted, he's going Hydras and have time. There's no way, I think you'll agree, you're going to afford any amount of more Adepts, Dark Templar, double Robo, and a Robo Bay on 2 gases.
Yep.
There's a lot of additional notes here. Gases 3 and 4. 3, you know what? I just spoiled it a little. If you're going for a big tech follow-up, around what time do you take those gases? No, I'm saying in an ideal scenario, not you, but ideal scenario. What time would you take your 3rd and 4th gases? Maybe you stagger them a little, but something
like why warping like Adepts in the
4-gate
middle of the
Adept
map?
into tech. Like you're gonna slow down on the Adepts at some point, and go for more tech.
Okay.
There was a question, by the way.
Wait. Did I think I
When do
answered?
you take them? What did you say?
Oh, I said after warping in the middle of the field because I
What
think
time?
at that time
What time should it be? In an ideal, like, gate first scenario. Like the build is supposed to be.
5 minutes.
No. 3:30 to 4 minutes.
Oh,
A heavy tech build like a Templar, I'd say about 4 minutes. With a depth build for heavy tech is 3. You know how I know this? Because Zerg scout for it at the higher level. It's actually almost as important to the Zerg as to the Protoss. This map actually has a distinct advantage for Protoss doing early tech builds. Do you know why? At the high level, not here. We're just flailing. We know, but
I don't know.
it's not really something super obvious, and it's not something I'd expect you to factor in. Just something to appreciate and kind of give you an understanding. You see where the gas geysers at the natural are?
Yeah.
And you
okay.
see where the Overlord usually is?
Oh, okay. They can't scout.
Yeah, there you go. Like on Eternal Empire, you can see both gas geysers next to each other, right? Right next to the Overlord, which gives a lot more information. Whereas here, the Overlord might die before it even sees them. So that's, once again, not something we're worrying about you, but that's just to appreciate the difference sometimes in maps. But your general time for heavy tech, like Templar or Stargate heavy, is like 3:30-ish. These are all within like 15-second windows.
Okay.
Like a follow-up to a light gas kind of build, which is like Adepts, maybe 1 Oracle or something, is more like 4 to 4:30. It really depends on exactly what's happening. Once again, assuming ideal builds.
Okay.
I think I'll also put probe counts on here. I'm not as confident in the probe counts because usually I go by timing because usually it's not that far off. But around 30 probes for heavy tech. Whereas the follow-up to a light gas, like a light gas timing, is more like around 35-ish probes. So that way you have more minerals to do your attack. And then... And if it's past 5 minutes, you either better be taking a third or doing something like you can't really afford tech against a competent player. Maybe if you do damage, but you haven't really done damage to him, right?
Okay. I think the rest of replays just, well, very bad. I didn't do anything actually.
For once, I agree with you on your assessment of the game. Oh, third robo it is.
Wait, it's not a robo bay?
No, you got a robo bay and a third robo. It's the whole...
Oh, okay.
Don't worry, that one DT though.
Good. Now I have your attention.
Research finished.
Also, any hotkeys. I don't know if you're using them for your prism. You gotta hotkey the prism.
Oh, I hotkey the prism.
Okay, you are at least. All right. Just the fact, like, it's obviously not a super heavy reflex. At this point, yeah, you lost the game. If we go to the everyone, now, the thing is, it's really easy to get caught up. I'm gonna add this to your homework. But it's really easy to get caught up in what's happening now and not thinking about the bigger picture. Once again, you see his supply. How many... And you see how many units are on the field. How many drones around does he have? He's at 45.
45.
So, like, that's not a ridiculous number, right? Like, it's not like he's just going to suddenly get everything, though you might try.
Well, yeah, it's already thrown off. At this point, I should have, like, full 2 base and maybe getting a third.
Yeah, there you go. So, that's why I'm kind of recommending some Zerg. Because a lot of people who don't... It's especially because Zerg is so different. I'm repeating myself, but to clarify. It's just because you probably understand Terran pretty well and how quickly they can make workers and all that. Because they queue them up one at a time. But Zerg just has a different style of doing it that until you're in the driver's seat, you don't really understand very well why, like, the first Adept is so stressful. Because you don't really want to build Zerglings, but you also want to build, you also don't want to lose any drones. So, managing those drones early is pretty hard. And you're kind of panicking. Like, this game was a disaster, but it was, I will give you credit on picking it. Because it really demonstrated a lot of things.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can go to the next replay right now.
Yes.
And
We'll
maybe
go.
speed through that one.
No. We're gonna go over time. This is the first time I've done coaching in a long time. We're gonna go through the next replay as well. Just FYI. Let's see. Do I want to make a new file for this? No, I've got so many additional notes. I'll just. Oh my god. We're closing the replay. I'll bring up the next one. But generally, I think I wrote down most of the stuff. There's a lot to handle. If you get 1 out of 3, like the homework you should try to do. But if you just focus on the first 5 minutes and like when and why I'm scouting and hotkeying your building probe, I think that'll get you pretty far as well.
Okay. Give me 1 minute. You can put an ad.
Sure. Did you know Angry Coach isn't always angry? For only $200 a month on Patreon, you can get actual coaching and maybe learn something. I wouldn't recommend it. Good luck, and have fun Don't forget to subscribe. I will bring up the other.
Oh, good. Now I have your attention.
Okay, I'm back.
Welcome back. All right, we got the game versus. His name is Doucher, so that is already a strong start.
Wait, did I pick the wrong one? It should be versus Terran.
He is Terran. I said. Oh wait, no, he's not Terran. He's Protoss. If you'd like to find it, that's fine.
Let me send the link. Wait, no, this is the third one.
The title says Terran.
Yeah, the title says Terran. The game says, I don't know. Maybe just watch it.
Sure. Let's go ahead and see. Like, I don't. What do you use to title your No, I got it from SC2 replay stats. Wait, did you
Yeah.
go in the game or?
No, I looked
gotta-
on the replay stats and I see this is a
Yeah, it
real
says
mind
he's-
game.
Yeah, that's weird. You gotta leave the lobby for a sec.
Okay.
That is super weird. I have no idea. Well, let's see.
Oh, he's a random. Okay.
I don't know why it picks him as Protoss then if he gets Terran in the game. So he's
I
a
don't
random
know.
player. Oh, so this... Does he tell his race? It does. It definitely hurts the most. I
yeah,
assume he
he
told it
tells-
in the countdown, which doesn't show up.
Yeah, he tells it's Terran.
Okay.
But I don't trust.
I'd say just trust him. And if he
Well,
lies, like...
last time I trusted one, and
They
he
lied.
said he's Terran, and then he said he's Zerg, and I don't know, he switched 3 times.
I wouldn't trust a diamond random player either, to be honest. So is that why you're walling off the front?
Yeah.
Where would you usually put the wall off?
For this map, there is a Reaper ramp with like 1 pylon, 2 buildings, or maybe 1 building even, but like I don't know how to do that with 1.
So where would you put it if you weren't doing the Reaper ramp? Do you always wall the Reaper ramp?
Well, if it's a map with a very large ramp, I'll just do it near the Nexus.
I will say, like, up against random, you're at that little disadvantage because your pylon
You let this happen.
is not... Like, having that pylon near your Nexus is kind of important. I don't usually wall the Reaper ramp because... 1, I'm not confident I'll do it correctly, and 2, I like having a pylon near my Nexus, like, guaranteed.
Oh, I will maybe have the second one near the Nexus.
But now you're at, like, if you take a natural, then your pylon isn't near your natural, and
Probes are under attack.
it gets a little
It's
awkward.
A disaster.
Yeah. I think
This
it's-
build is much... I think the existential threat of Zerg is much more dangerous for you. Like, I can
Your probes are
already...
Under attack.
This was very well done. Like, that was actually... Besides, like... Well, just counting in he's random, the fact you got in, scouted everything, saw the expansion, and didn't screw up your build. This was good.
I think the game is. Oh, I think the Reaper killed like 2 or 3 probes. I don't know. Or
No
did.
reason to be chasing the SCV here, by the way.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, that's the first probe.
Yeah. Well, the Adept kind of left.
Your base is under attack.
I ran
So-
it down and I didn't click
Yeah.
it.
I'd say like if you don't put the gateway as part of the Reaper wall, don't bother Reaper walling, to be honest. Like it's not worth the effort at that stage. Do you usually go Stargate, or is that kind of just like you decide on Stargate?
I like, I think this not a build. I
Uh,
usually try to go for Colossus.
I think that's
And
safer most
I
times.
lost a bunch of games and I don't know.
Well,
I'm trying
with
different things.
Colossus doesn't just mean go Colossus. It more means like now you can get a sentry early and an observer, and then you can just put Colossus where they need to be. And if you're struggling a little with hotkeys, it's going to be a problem because the big vulnerability of Colossi is not being able to be in two places at once. So Terrans like to
Yeah,
drop,
if they
especially
drop.
Diamond. Like Diamond Terrans love dropping. They don't know anything.
Oh, they
else.
drop a lot, and
Yeah.
I'm
They're
just
too scared to walk. Understand when they drop, it's not a good move. It's because they're bitches. Okay? Just remember that. You see a drop, you're like, what a bitch. And then you deal with it. But also remember that he could be a bitch.
I think I lost my Oracle to this mine.
Yeah, I wouldn't really recommend Stargate for you. Like, Oracle can be good, but it really needs a lot of APM and attention to pay off effectively. I usually go Robo. I mean, most pros go either Robo or Twilight. Occasionally you'll get a Stargate player, but they'll really like be babies. So
I'm trying to
Like-
build a pylon on the third right now, and it's blocked by my.
yeah, you see what happens as soon as you start microing. You've seen this before. You have a pylon, one pylon on the way, but your supply block. No probes queued up or in production, but your supply block. And I don't know, like oracles just aren't that good against SCVs. They were nerfed intentionally to not kill SCVs in 2 hits. So, but yeah.
Meet our fate.
Yeah.
Well, he has Marines. That is a cool explosion with that skin. You see the purple? I don't know if you play. What graphic settings do you play on?
I just normal.
That looks amazing. Anyways.
Oh, it has like the twisting effect.
So you notice that something's coming out here. But if you don't open
Yeah.
Robo, then you're already... I mean, you're getting a Robo... I don't think this is a bad recovery from that. Obviously, that's not good. But... And there's
I
no
think
easy
somehow
defense.
the
I don't
wind
have
of
a...
mine went in, and I have the stuff put there, but like it doesn't. It still goes through.
It's hard. It's hard to deal with mines. Like, you just gotta pretty much pull away and maybe try to use probes. Like, you gotta sacrifice some for the good of the many. But I notice right now, your units in the main aren't hotkeyed. So what's gonna happen when a Widowmine drop comes in? Either you're gonna... It's gonna be panic. Okay, I'm adding... to the homework, hotkeys on all pre-warp gate units. On all pre-50 supply units. How about that? Before 50 supply, like, you might be like, well, I only have a few units. That's the most important time to have hotkeys, right? Like, because if you only have a few units, you need to make sure they're in the right spot. And you know, you're about to get wrecked by a Widowmine drop. You know how much 1 second matters. It takes 1.4 seconds for a Widowmine to lock on, for reference. Also, did you just not see it on the minimap? Or...
Yeah, I didn't see it.
Well, one, that's the reason. So for observers, I'm just putting this in additional notes.
I usually put the observer there, but my robo is late and my observer just came out or something. Or is it? No, it's not built.
So you can see, last game, was a good choice of game for many reasons. This is a terrible choice of game. But so we're gonna see. Pretty much just don't do anything of what you did and add in better. But if you don't have an obs, you shouldn't. I mean, you don't need an obs against Widow Mind Drop, but you're gonna take damage. That just guarantees you're gonna take damage. The matter is how much. And I don't really have a fix for you on the minimap. You just gotta get better at reacting. Because I noticed the Widow Mind Drop coming in. I'm like, okay, so since you don't have a hotkey, you're gonna panic. But actually, it wasn't until the wet medevac was already going over. You need to either pull the probes to attack or pull the probes. Like, as soon as you see the medevac and you realize the mines are going to burrow, the probes need to leave. So that way some might survive. Because, very simply, well, I'm just leading up to this.
Painful.
15. Yeah, that's like... You could GG now, and it would be understandable. That's the problem with Widow Mind Drops, though. It's like a gut wound. You're not gonna die right now, but you are dying. Insult to injury. Are you just, like, denying reality right now? Is that what's happening?
You mean in the game or right now?
No. With these stalkers, what are they doing?
My plan is to put them back there and maybe patrol to stop the next one if the next one
Where did the
happens.
medevac go? The fact that you can't answer my question immediately. I'm sorry. The
maybe
fact
it's
that
dead or something.
Okay, let's go back. I want you to pay attention to your vision. Okay? I want you to look through your eyes. I know it sounds like a lot, but look through your eyes and see. In real time. We're just going to let it play out. Now you see the value of hotkeys. Like, what if you need your Phoenix? You see the minimap now? Also, this is a bad habit. Everything can get by that adept. But you adjusted the adept, like, maybe a Thor won't get through it. Like, okay. You were adjusting your adept. I'm sorry, I said I wouldn't pause. But you were adjusting your adept as a Widow Mind Drop came in. So I think once you learn to wall off a little better, that'll bleed over into PvT. It's not as important to wall off at the front, but if you're going to do it, you might as well do it right? So if you get better at consistently walling off to have just a small gap, then it helps all around. Even against Protoss, potentially for adepts.
Teleport successful.
Tell me again where the medevac went.
Okay. Huh.
I'm looking at your camera, if you pay attention. This is your screen at the time. So, I'm just pointing it out. I have no fix for you. There's no easy fix here. But I want to point out that, one, in-game, obviously you didn't notice it pick up the mines and go to your natural. But also, on watching the replay with me here, you also didn't notice it pick up the mines and go to the natural. That was your second and third chance at it. So, just, first you have to acknowledge your blind spot, but the first step is acknowledging it. Do you acknowledge that you may be blind?
Yeah, I'm very blind.
Okay. And then, that's the first step. I have no second step yet. But this is where if you had a Phoenix hotkey and were not blind, that would actually come in handy, right?
Yeah.
Teleport successful.
I think we both know what's going on here. Oh, where did he come from? Like, I think this is about the edge of what more we can get from this game. Because I don't think this is your normal build. But either way. Like, a robo wouldn't help much besides worrying less about your units. and just being more aware of your base. Oh. You really maxed out the 27 probes. Are you telling me you don't just leave now? Oh my god. I will give you credit for your tenacity. Wow, that is wow.
Well, I'm thinking maybe he will screw up his Marines and walk into Colossus.
It's I'm glad that, like, if you were a Terran player in this position, you probably would have left the game for sure. And I honestly would have agreed with you, but you're not a bitch. I'll give you that. You might be blind. You might not remember what your build is most of the time, but you're not a bitch. So you can at least take that one. And, like, if you noticed, and it's not important, by the way, but the Terran had almost 1,000 minerals when those Widow Mines hit. So he was very focused on those Widow Mines. So you're not wrong about, like, maybe he'll screw up his macro, because you always have a chance to come back. You have a third, and you have the right mindset. But so the answer to about his Marines versus Colossi would, of course, be get Colossi, which, unfortunately, I think we're still in panic mode. But I will give it, like, at least you were mostly building probes during all this. Yeah, you see what I mean about the gases? This same applies against Terran. In fact, it applies more. Like can you... I know it was a little general, but do you remember the timings for what kind of builds when you get your gas at the natural? Like, depending on which type of builds get gas when. Okay.
330 for heavy tech and maybe 4 for, like, adepts and stuff.
There you go. Usually, I'd probably go about, if you need a probe count, like 35 or 36, and then slap your double gas on. If you're consistently producing probes, which is the most important thing. Probes and pylons. Yeah, it seems like you kind of get yourself into a tough spot, and then you remember all the stuff you wanted to do. Both these games, both against Protoss and against Terran, have been that. I mean, against Zerg and against Terran. Don't do it. Oh, nice. I really thought you were gonna fly over the mines and stack it.
I think I flew over it later.
Yeah, Phoenix is... You're actually handling it pretty well. You saw that on the minimap, right?
Now I have your attention.
I've
No.
reached a diamond 3 and I feel all my games qualify for Bronze League Heroes.
This is where you should also have your main army just hotkeyed. You're at 117 APM, which means you're kind of taxing here. Like, there's definitely some... Part of the reason... Your APM's probably a little lower than that on average, like 110 to 120. Would you say that's about right?
Yeah.
Which is a little low, especially if you're not super efficient. I know I did the 100 APM challenge, but that's because I know exactly what I want to do at what point. So that's one why I don't recommend Phoenixes, obviously. But such as it is, you're doing a pretty good... Like, just if you look past the devastating game-ending Widowmine hit to the rest of the game, it's not terrible. Like you've got the right idea. Twilight, Robobay, forges. One forge usually would... There you go. Like, unfortunately, you need to stop interrupting yourself. So I need you to... Just the same homework applies here. 40 probes before attack. I guess you get one Oracle or one Adept. But one Oracle does not mean you need Phoenixes, by the way. Usually against Terran, 1 or 2 is fine. But that doesn't mean you need to go Phoenix. You see plenty of times players get like an Oracle, maybe a Void Ray, and then it's Robo time, right? So
Okay.
don't feel married to that Stargate.
Yeah, I think I just flew over the mines.
Mineral field depleted.
The takeaway is focus on that macro, just generally. More focus on macro. Don't worry so much about your opponent.
Oh, about that, I do have a a lot of macro games, and
Do they go
usually
better?
gets yeah, well, it's more stressful because there's a lot more stuff.
Well, if you wanted less stuff, go play League of Legends. All right. So obviously
I'm
that
dead.
wasn't great. If your army was hotkeyed, would it be a little easier to move it back reliably? So this is just a general thing. This game is somehow further off than the last one, because this is just it wasn't like you were doing your build. Tell me if I'm wrong at the end of this. It wasn't like you were doing your build. You just did a different build and then caught up. The Protoss versus Zerg was you were trying to do your build, you just got interrupted a bunch. Like, you kind of had a plan the whole
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, this game doesn't really have a plan. And I don't know why I'm having 26 probes on the third.
Well, you're transferring from you've done a great job of building probes. You got a nice amount of probes right now. Do you know how many probes you have?
60?
69, in fact.
Oh, very nice.
You ever since the Widowmine slaughtered your probes, you've really made an effort. And I think if instead of Phoenix microing, you had gone straight into Colossi, like, he's a random player. He doesn't know how to play macro. The only reason this is going so well is because he killed more than half of your probes. Imagine if he had only killed like 8. How many Colossi would you have now? I don't know if you'd have more, because it would have still taken a while. But
Just throw away the phoenixes, that would be 2 more colossus.
I mean, you could literally just throw away your phoenixes. Like, I don't mean don't build them. Just throw them away. Just, like, kill, like, 10 SCVs and let them die. Like, because you have enough money for 2 more Colossi right now. You do. You just didn't get there yet.
I didn't build them, like...
And why didn't you build them?
I'm building one right now.
But why didn't you build them earlier?
Well, phoenixes.
Exactly. It's not about, like... So your problem isn't the resources, it's about timing and focus. So what you're going to want to take away from this, I think we've reached most of the conclusion. You'll let it play out. But you need to stop outplaying yourself to start. So the first 5 minutes, just to recap, and there's going to be a quiz at the end, by the way. So the first 5 minutes, instant build and train for walls. Your homework is instant build and train for walls on each map that you don't veto. Hotkeying all units before 50 supply, or at least all groups of units, all types of units. 40 probes before a major attack. And then don't panic.
Okay.
Can you repeat that?
So, instant build mod for walling off all maps, and then 40 probes before an attack, and don't panic.
You missed one.
Well,
It was more general. It wasn't specific. It was actually do your build.
oh, okay.
It was don't stop interrupting yourself. Do your build. And if your build is attacked before 40 probes, well, change your build. Phoenixes are attacking. An Oracle isn't. An Adept, a Scouting Adept isn't. But 5 Phoenixes definitely are, right? So, GG. Appropriate. Like, even at the end, still not, like, you're unfocused. You are a very diamond player, but, like, the diamond players, you even suggested maybe Angry Coach, and I think it came out a little. But, you play like the diamond players that can improve. That is a legitimate compliment. Because I know you know where you want to be. You're just really struggling to get there. So, I want you to do all those things. If you can do 10 Zerg games, by the way, try to get 10 Zerg games in at some point in the next few weeks, ideally. But otherwise, I think that summarizes it. Any questions for me? Anything specifically you wanted to ask that I didn't answer or go over?
No, I think because I think most games I lost to Terran is maybe. Oh yeah, how to deal with tanks.
How to deal with tanks. Archons.
Okay.
What you want against tanks, if you think they're going for a tank push, armor upgrade first. I'm gonna actually talk about that. Are we talking like a two-base tank timing or just general?
Yeah.
A big part of dealing, we're assuming do you usually scout it, see it coming, and then die anyways?
No, I maybe I scout there isn't a third, and that's about it.
So your first obs out of your robo scouts his base and then pretends it's an overlord. You know what I mean? You go up there and then you siege it up. You know surveillance mode, the siege button? You do that so that way you can see his army moving out. I have no solution if you don't see it on the minimap moving out, but that's the first step, right?
Yeah.
So your observer, if you're doing that normal Colossi build, should get there. Like, Colossi are fine against tanks, as long as you actually build them. Like, that's an important point. You know what I mean? Like, having range is a big deal, because that way you can kill the Marines without getting too close to the tanks. But with your normal build, you should be fine, like a normal Colossi build. But if you scout, they're going for tanks early. And, by the way, they don't do a tank push if they opened up. Like, the tank push can't be nearly as quick if they opened up with 4 Widow Mines. Like, if it's a 2 Widow Mine drop, maybe. But if it's a 4 Widow Mine drop, that's a lot of time on the factory. So it can't be as quick. Just to keep that in mind. And then, I'm just saying, see move out, use eyes. But if you...
That's hard.
It's better to give up the third base if you know it's a 2-base tank push than to attack before you're ready. Usually need 2 plus range. You usually need 2 Colossi plus range. If you don't have that, you're almost certainly going to have to give up the third. It's almost guaranteed. If you have 3 Colossi, you should be able to crush it with just a few anything underneath. Probably not Stalkers. And then I'm going to say 2 Sentries, because a big part of the tank push is Guardian Shield defending. Guardian Shield not only reduces the attack damage of Marines, you know that. It also reduces the splash damage. So having Guardian Shield is a huge deal. You'll notice that even in the late game, like, Protoss players will warp in 1 or 2 Sentries for their 200 supply army. Like, Neeb will have 17 carriers and 2 Sentries as his army. Like, because that Guardian Shield is so good.
Also for the Colossus build, should I start with Blink or just directly go charge?
You said 2-base Colossus.
No, I mean just normal.
For a
Colossus
let's say we're not talking about 2-base tank anymore, right?
Yeah.
Against 2-base tank?
I mean just general, like for example, I get a third and I start building Colossus. So do I try to go Blink or do I just?
You won't have either against a good 2-base tank push. You shouldn't get either. You should get 6 gates, then start. Also, don't go Blink.
Like, Blink is bad. For me.
I would recommend if you're scared of a tank push, you go 5 gates before Twilight. Like, you need to have 5 gates built, because you just need to put things in front of the Colossi. That's it. And then the Twilight, like, because think about how much gas it is to go for a Twilight, get Twilight tech, and also have enough warp gate units, plus going for Colossi. And you keep forgetting your gas. So, like you're definitely going to be needing to get gas before 4 minutes. Like this. But 5 gates before Twilight, and then almost certainly charge. But Twilight and Forge come up. Like, if you think you're going to reliably get 2 to 3 Colossi with a decent amount of warp gate units before the tank push gets there. And remember, you have that observer. I'll tell you, like 85% of the time when I'm dealing with a 2-base tank push, I'm able to scout it with an OBS. It can be done. It's important to have it done. That's how pro players stop it from killing you. Sometimes they still die because tanks are good, but... and then, like, Twilight and Forge is what you do after. It's not for defending the first push, most of the time. Either the push is very late with a lot of tanks, and then you have charge lots, or it's early, and you defend with Colossi. But if you don't have if you only have 2 Colossi and they have like 5 tanks, you've screwed up your build more than anything else. You should easily be able to get 2 Colossi against like 3 or 4 tanks early.
Okay.
And just don't be afraid to give up the third instead of giving up the game. Because most of those Terran players, if they were comfortable with a good macro follow-up to their 2-base tank push, well then, they wouldn't be diamond. So, the focus is just crush it. And then make it so they have to... Then they'll go... I guarantee you they'll start dropping then. That'll be the follow-up. Okay. I think a little over time, but I think we covered it. I wanted to make sure we covered it. We got all that homework. I'm going to be sending you this. Do your build. Focus on macro. Stop trying to think for him. No matter if they're Terran or Zerg, but especially Zerg. Some big ones. Let me see. Oh, yeah. The Adept Shade scouting is a little detail that you could probably do just while playing normal games. Like, thinking proactively about what your Adept Shade is doing instead of like, I'm scouting with my Adept now. Like, which, let's be honest. So, any last things? Otherwise, by the way, just thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And, no, me first. But thank you again, and I hope this was helpful. So, any last things?
Well, see if I can get better before next month.
All right, get good, and good night. Talk to you later. Good luck, have fun.
Okay, thank you. See you.
Let me send him that. That was all just bullshit. I don't even know how to play this game anymore. What a noob.